Hello, Riz. Good to have you. So we'll just wait another couple of minutes just to get some people on, and then we'll start the part two. Again, just to remind you, it won't be nowhere near as long. This will only be sort of 5 to 10 minutes per person, and then we'll just kind of summarize it all and kind of see what we've learned today. And remember, all these videos will be available later, so we're going to be able to put these onto YouTube as well. Hopefully. I need to figure that out. I think Sana, to scale, if you're watching, you're going to have to guide me through that again. Or you kind of did it anyway last time. Cool, so people are rolling in now. We'll just wait another minute or two just to get enough of the people back on. We've given them a chance to get drinks, and I was dying to go to the loo. Sorry to be explicit. I think that's the problem when you drink coffee. It just goes straight through you, doesn't it? So yeah, it's been amazing so far. I mean, we've been able to speak to people who have such different perspectives, and so that's been incredibly useful for me. I don't know if it's been how useful it's been for everyone else, but from the response and the comments, it seems pretty good. Ryan, so how's it? Noah's great, Ryan. Noah is my new son. So yeah, he's great. He's the post-COVID baby. Oh, sorry, pre-COVID. Post. No, he was born just before lockdown. So I don't know what that makes him. COVID baby. Yeah. Okay, so we'll get started now as people slowly roll in. The first person we're going to get on is Tyler Lemmom. Tyler is someone I've studied with. He's someone who is a couple of years or a year senior to me. He excelled as a student, did amazing projects, and now he works at Hawkins Brown. I think he worked for Wilkinson Ira as well, but we'll get Tyler on and he can introduce himself. So Tyler, if you're there, I'm going to send you a request now. Just waiting for Tyler. Oh, there he is.
Hey mate, how's it going?
He's an Instagram model, right? How you been, man? Long time no see.
Yeah, no, I've been good. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while, but yeah, everything's good on my end.
So how have you enjoyed the talk so far? Did you find what's been said quite useful?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. It's been really helpful. I think, yeah, particularly helps students, especially if they're worried in this sort of time, going forward, looking for jobs and stuff. It's been really helpful advice. So yeah, no, it's been good.
I've just seen Reese Smitty's joined, so we're getting some old friends tuning in now. No pressure. So what I wanted to kind of share on with your side is actually, can you just kind of give a quick introduction of where you studied and where you work?
Yeah, so I studied, done my undergraduate at UCA in Canterbury, and then I'd done my year out in industry at Wilkinson Architects. And then I spent a year there, and then I done my part 2 back at UCA. Didn't change to go anywhere else. Just enjoyed it there. It sort of worked for me. And then after my part 2, in June of last year, I started at Hawkins Brown Architects, and now I'm working as a part 2 on Crossrail. So I'm on the design and sort of handover of Bond Street Station. So yeah, that's the sort of project I'm on.
So obviously Hawkins Brown is a very well known practice. Wilkinson Ira is a very well known practice, done major works. As someone who's currently working at Hawkins Brown, what's your experience been as a part 2, specific experience part 2 right now?
It's good. I mean, I think I've been lucky enough to work on a mixture of sort of infrastructure and sort of like public projects. For me, at the moment, I'm sort of a bit more of a unique experience that I'm not actually based at the main Hawkins Brown office. I'm actually at a site office because we're Crossrail's nearing completion. I'm at a site office working with Arup. So nice crossover to your next guest. But yeah, so we're with them at a slightly smaller site office at Bond Street / Oxford Street. So, but yeah, it's been good. I mean, being at a site office is really good because you get sort of a different experience in terms of like you're face to face with engineers and you're working through things that are like the very end goal of architecture. I mean, you've got your early stage 1, stage 2 concept stuff, which is all the fun, you know, hand drawing and sketching. But, you know, now I'm looking at like fire stopping details and the very like the end goal of, you know, getting something completed. So yeah, it's been a really good experience. I really enjoyed it.
And currently right now in Hawkins Brown, right now, what's the employment kind of situation right now? Because obviously you've been employed, and you know you're one of the lucky people who are not sitting in unemployment and kind of don't have any job uncertainties right now. Or you might do, I don't know, because I also have a friend who's at Grimcor's, and they're having a lot of uncertainties with re-signing the contract with a lot of workers. So do you have any kind of stance on what's going on with the employment?
Yeah, so there was obviously like a resounding sort of nervousness in the community of architects. I mean, we've had, you know, projects like company overall updates on sort of where we stand, and I think the good thing is going into this COVID that we had won a lot and we had a lot of work coming in. I think, you know, I think the way companies will be affected is the work they've got sort of going into that sort of pandemic and sort of what they can win during this phase. You know, we've been lucky. We had an update or yesterday actually that, you know, we'd took on some more projects and stuff. So, but there's definitely, you know, there's definitely projects within the company that work has definitely stopped or like significantly slowed down. So I guess I've been lucky in a way that my projects kept going. Obviously in construction, it slowed down significantly, but there was enough on-site feedback needed that, you know, no one on my team was sort of furloughed or had to stop working for any reason. So we've kind of progressed as normal. But yeah, I guess it's very situational.
Sorry?
It's very situational. I mean, it sort of depends on firstly what stage the project's at, and then also what the company's brought in during sort of this time.
Right. So generally speaking, a practice of kind of Hawkins Brown status, they've been pretty stable because, you know, they've got perhaps other you know, jobs in slightly other kind of realms that are maybe not as affected by COVID. But
yeah,
I guess kind of on an informal level, like, do you know if they're employing people right now, or have they kind of paused that right now?
I don't actually know. I mean, it's such a big practice. I wouldn't know if they're sort of looking to take people on. You know, for example, if we won a big master plan project, we might need more people, or it could be they might not take on people and they might say, well, you know, work stopped on this project over here for this reason. We're going to shift, you know, the 10 people that aren't working on this project for now onto the new thing we just won. So they might not take people on until financially, you know, they're back up to a level where it's acceptable to do so. Because, you know, every company is going to lose money during this. It'll be, you know, Foster's, I think, have reduced the pay of employees, and there's been several polls on AJ as to like whether companies will, you know, reduce pay for a certain amount of months. And, you know, it's sort of, you've got to kind of expect it and take it with a pinch of salt and sort of be positive that it will sort of just get back to how it was.
We'll fizzle out, yeah. So just finally, what would you advise people who are, you know, not so far behind you, who are maybe just finishing their part twos and they're a bit apprehensive to apply to places because they don't know whether they're just going to reply or ignore them? What would you say?
I think sort of when I finished my part one, I was very much just sending emails out and everything like that. But I think it's good, you know, certain places like you to be proactive. I think proactive's the main thing. You know, a nice hand delivered, you know, CV and letter of why tailored to why you want to work for this place and what it means to you is, you know, it goes a long way over the hundreds of emails places people get. But also, I think you always need to, you know, everyone's coming out of university with a degree. I think if you can go one up on someone and, you know, your competitors and do a competition, you don't have to win it, but if you go and do your own private work or, you know, something that puts you, you know, it makes you stand out, I think it also cures some of the boredom of this like lockdown as well. If you can go and do some of your own work and have something else other than just your uni work, I think that's just a massive positive that people look for.
Right. So for people in those positions who aren't necessarily, you know, they're not gonna like die and starve to death if they don't get a job. I know some people are in a much more extreme situation. Let me just put that out there, where they need a job right now. And I think at the end of the conversation, end of the event, I'm gonna quickly speak to that as well, because I personally am in a position where I need to get work pretty soon. But let's say those people who aren't, and I think a lot of young students have the luxury of just staying with their parents or just taking some time out to think and take a breather. I see you might be suggesting that maybe take some time to work on your portfolio, work on what you really want, do a competition, you know, take this time to build yourself.
Yeah. There'll be stuff out there for a girl who I work with. There was a competition that got published on, I think it was the AJ, for designing these benches within a station. One's at London Bridge, and she's got through to the final of that. And, you know, that sort of publicity of getting, you know, your name put on a website like that, it's just an extra thing that, you know, it's fun to do a competition. And it also helps with, you know, when you join a company like this, usually as part one or part two, you're going to be working on bids for stuff. So to do your own competition work and to get used to sort of getting in that mindset of, you know, this is how I win a competition, these are the sort of steps I need to do. It's just a tick in most boxes.
And just quickly, how have they got you working? How's your work setup changed? Are you working from home?
Yeah, I'm working from home. I actually don't mind it, to be honest. Logistically, it's quite nice because I don't have to queue for a tube in the morning, and I don't have to go between different offices to have meetings. I just call someone on Zoom or something. So yeah, I don't mind it. I've got a couple of screens downstairs and just work in my kitchen really.
And it's been pretty seamless with the office software. There's been no issues there.
No, we're you know, IoT done a really good job. We got speeds quite quickly. There was a few obviously teething problems and stuff, but yeah, I just remote into my computer at Oxford Street and just sort of work on that basically from home.
Has there been any talk about returning back to the studios at Hawkins Brown?
Yeah. So I mean, I said for me it's a bit different around the site office, but the main office itself, they're looking at before we had like a nice hot desking policy where you could sort of, you work in one area of the studio and say you wanted to work in a different area with some friends, you could go sit next to them. So they're stopping that, and they're just spacing everything out. So they'll do like probably a percentage of people would, you know, go back to work on a certain period of time, and then they'll stagger it. So they're sending out sort of questionnaires for people to, you know, see how they'd want to return back to work. They're also upgrading the cycle storage within the company because people aren't going to be wanting to take the tubes and stuff. And I think the site office, they are working on it. It's a little bit harder because the space there is so much more cramped. And, you know, we're working with Arup, there's a lot of engineers and stuff, and a lot of site guys. So I imagine that the main office would return back to work, and then I would maybe return back to work to site office a little bit later on. But yeah, There are steps in place.
So there are people right now in studios, back to studios.
I don't think anyone's gone back to the studio from our point of view. You know, they're putting, I've seen sort of like CAD drawings and stuff of our studio and how they're going through all the layouts and working how things can work so that we're abiding by the rules. But I think everyone's still working from home.
Right. Well, it's definitely a really good update to get from you and from a practice like Hawkins Brown. So thanks again for helping out, man.
No worries, mate. Cheers.
All right, take it easy, yeah?
Good to see you, mate. Bye.
Bye. Right, some really interesting insight there from a very notable practice in London with Hawkins Brown. A lot of you might already know it, and it's quite hopeful to see that already there's moves being made how to bring people back to studios. So people who are looking for jobs should be kind of, I think, happy to expect we might be able to get back to studio working soon. We're going to get next Sophia Malik on, and she is a architecture assistant at Arup. So in some ways, she's working with Tyler. But Sophia, if you're there, we're going to get you on now. I'm just going to send you a request. And hopefully we'll get a different insight with another major practice.
Hey.
Hey,
Oh
how
my
are you?
God, long time.
Yeah, actually, so Sophia and I, we studied together in Dubai.
Yeah, so many
Pretty
years
crazy.
ago.
And now we're here. I had no idea she was doing architecture up until recently, and she's doing amazing. Like, she's working at Arup, and she's got sitting on some offers from some really big unis. So, Sophia, just quickly introduce, if I haven't already done that, just what you're doing right now.
So I went to Leeds Uni and I did architecture, and then I did a master's in structural engineering, um, so that I could learn about how things are actually built. And then that's why I went to join Arup, because I thought it was a good mix. And I did my placement there first over summer just to see what it was like, and then I joined for my part one, and I've just finished my part one, and now I actually accepted Cambridge after speaking to you.
Oh, you accepted it?
I accepted Cambridge, yeah, so I'm going to go there hopefully in October. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. So again, like kind of same questions I wanted to ask you that I was asking Tyler. Firstly, how has things been different for you at Arup? Has the working conditions changed? Obviously, for such a giant firm, you guys were probably all working in the office constantly, but I assume now you're working from home.
We're all working from home now, yeah, since about 2 or 3 months now. They were very quick to say at the beginning, when all this COVID stuff came out, that if you don't feel comfortable coming in, don't. And even before that, people were working flexibly. People who had caring responsibilities would come in like a few times a week or whatever they could do. So I feel like for Arup, that transition into working from home wasn't like we already had the infrastructure in place. People were already doing things remotely. What I would say we didn't have, and I don't think anyone did, was the capacity for everyone to be working from home. And so at the beginning, it was just a bit hard getting used to that. And I think IT struggled just a bit, but then very quickly people just started getting on with it. Things got faster because it was our priority now. And it's kind of been a smooth transition. We've been pretty lucky in that everyone started to work from home at once. And then I moved back to Leeds, and even while I was here, people were getting equipment delivered home if they didn't have the ideal working situation. Things like even chairs and things like that, because it is important. So I got a monitor that was delivered here as well.
Oh, amazing.
So it's been good. I mean, you miss like the spontaneous chats when you're going to get coffee. That is such a big part of it. Like I used to find out so much about what was going on in architecture just through getting my tea. But yeah, that's the one thing I miss. Also, I think I end up working way too much when I'm home because I don't switch off. I'll be checking my emails after work, or it's the reason why I don't put it on my phone. And so I feel like that is hard, just making that distinction between work and home.
Yeah, really interesting insight. I think one of the amazing things that I keep mentioning is the fact we get so many different insights from so many different scales of practice, and Arup is probably one of the biggest ones we've had. We've had Ryan talk about kind of more multidisciplinary aspect of his work with podcasting, and he also runs a small practice. Arthur Mamamani runs a sort of small to medium practice, doing incredibly diverse set of work himself. Angela Brady runs a small practice, but she was, ex-president of RIBA. Tyler works for Hawkins Brown, a huge practice, and now Arup. You work for Arup, and Arup are giant, and they're also incredibly kind of engineering heavy. So what I thought would be really interesting to explore is the fact that obviously Arup are primarily kind of affected by the construction industry, obviously, given their work. How do you think it's been affected? How do you think business has been affected with Arup, given that construction has kind of taken quite a big hit?
I don't think because we're still consultants, so I don't think Arup has been impacted more than just maybe because of our scale. We've been impacted by the stop in construction, but I think even someone at Hawkins Brown, or even a smaller practice, their work is intrinsically linked to construction of that project eventually. What I would say is that, like, obviously things have slowed down. The thing is with construction, their biggest priority is safety, so it was in their best interest to kind of halt things for people's health and safety. But I think now things are starting to reopen, like construction sites are starting to reopen, but on very strict measures. And where it's possible, like, it's not just the construction site, that could be completely safe and you could have your 2 meters and all sorts of social distancing, but if people can't get to the construction site safely, they're not allowed to go. So that, I think, does slow down things. There was definitely guidance at the beginning that if you have contractual obligations to go to site, that's different. But if you don't have to, and if you can even do if you can see progress on site remotely through videos or photographs, that's what people are doing as well. So generally, I think things have slowed down, but it's been cautious, but they're starting again.
Right. And in terms of sort of the employment kind of opportunities that you might be kind of aware of, or you might not be aware of, you can maybe speculate on it. What do you think? Because obviously you made a really good point there that Arup is not intrinsically involved in the practical aspects of construction, but they're consultants. So that makes a lot of sense that they wouldn't be that affected because they're essentially giving out drawings, advice, and things like that. So I imagine the employment might not be as badly affected as the kind of traditional architecture.
No, so I think I know that things have been halted and delayed and people aren't sure, but I wouldn't be saying that it's cancelled. Like, the year is not cancelled, and I don't think people should really get, I don't know, I'm still on the side, I'm still thinking positively, and I don't think anyone's really said anything to think otherwise. Maybe when you're on the outside of it and you're a student and things seem so uncertain, I can understand the perspective. I wasn't really aware of it, to be honest, until I was listening to all these people. But I still feel like things are going to go ahead. Maybe not now, maybe January, maybe later, but I wouldn't lose hope on not getting your chance or missing your year or then being lost for the next year. I wouldn't worry about that, to be honest.
And another thing I think I noticed is a lot of people don't necessarily consider Arup to be the perfect place for you to go for your assistant work, especially those who didn't take a very engineering heavy kind of education. But obviously Arup being one of the most incredible practices, one of the most famous and major practices that actually work with all of the biggest practices in the UK architecture firms, it makes me think that actually if I was looking for a job, I've already kind of chosen where I might go, but if I was looking again, I would definitely consider Arup because I didn't actually clock the fact that they would have typical part 1 and part 2 assistant roles for a kind of engineering heavy kind of organization.
I think a lot of people didn't know that. So Arup had Arup Associates, which was purely architecture, and it was separate to Arup until recently. They joined back together. So there is an entire architecture department now. And we even have some projects with the engineers, but some of them we have with different engineers, that aren't Arup. So we have our own contracts. The thing that I listened to Arthur speak, and I really liked what he said about, if you're really passionate and enthusiastic, reach out to people and it will happen. And that's exactly how it happened for me. I randomly emailed Arup just because when I was a student, my favourite projects were ones that had been done by Arup. I just saw a pattern that my favourite projects were those ones, and it was, things like the Pompidou. That was one of my favourites, and so I was like, I want to work there. And then I actually went, and my first placement wasn't in architecture; it was in structural engineering. And I didn't really know as much as a structural engineer, and I was going to interview for that. But and I saw like there were 4 other people interviewing with me, and they had like their calc sheets and their big like exam papers, and I came in with like my portfolio and my sketches, and I was like, I don't really want to be a structural engineer, but I want to know how to do it, and I really love what you do. And I was for sure, I thought I would never get it, but I ended up learning so much, and it helped me so much in my part 1. I don't understand why you wouldn't go to a place where you can learn about other things. It informs your work so much.
100%. And I think that's such an important point, because people right now think that there's only one path to go down. We have to go for the typical RIBA chartered practice and get our, qualification, and then go to part 3 and blah, blah, blah. But there are so many other opportunities I think people overlook. And yeah, it might not be the most obvious thing that Arup would be a multidisciplinary venture, but in some ways it is the best one, because at the same time it's slightly different. It's also incredibly intrinsic aspect of architectural design.
I think that was the intention of it as well. That's why they have everyone in one house basically. And the thing that I learned the most is I actually saw so many people that came from completely different backgrounds. They hadn't done the traditional architecture. Someone had done fine art and then gone to architecture. Someone had done product design and then gone into engineering. Someone had done engineering and then moved to architecture. And it was like constantly moving about, and they facilitate that in Arup. Like if you want to do it, they will help you do that. And being around that is kind of why I continue to stay there.
Amazing.
So yeah, I would completely recommend it. Like I'm sat next to lighting designers and environmental engineers and urban designers, and I really enjoy that.
So right now you'll be going to Cambridge soon, so there'll be a job vacancy at Arup, so people should start applying now, right?
There might be, yeah. Someone is welcome to take it.
Sophia, amazing to have you on. Great insights there, and I'm sure we'll be in touch again soon.
Yeah, it was good to speak and good to see you again. And it's good that you're doing this. I've actually really enjoyed listening to the whole thing.
Great, yeah. I'm glad that we can get people on and they can share value. That's the whole point.
Okay.
Take care, yeah?
You take care. Bye.
Okay, guys. So the last person coming on now is going to be Reem. Reem is also someone I've studied with, and she will also follow with an exciting announcement at the end. And so yeah, let's get Reem on. And I think Reem has had experience at a slightly smaller practice, or much smaller than Arup. And yeah, we'll get some final insights. And shout out to my niece, Hiba. Hiba, if you're watching this, I love you.
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just outside.
Great. Well, tell us where you are.
Oh, I'm at the Olympic Park.
Ooh. You're taking off.
Just having a picnic. Well, technically 2 meters social distancing with friends. So yeah.
Well, I'll quickly just ask some of the questions and some of the.
Your voice is
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. That's better. So, quickly, just give us a quick intro in terms of like what your situation is now, how you're working.
Yeah.
What's changed for you now?
Okay, so I work for a small practice. We're under 6 people as well, including the director. And before the whole COVID thing happened, we had quite a few projects which small projects. So we do a range of small residential. Sometimes there are times where we do development projects as well. We had a project which was just about to go on site for construction, and we were in the process of releasing conditions. And when COVID happened, obviously there was, Boris said construction sites would need to close for a bit, and there was a delay on that. But luckily, we were in conversation with, we were still in conversation with certain organizations and water boards, for example. So we were trying to get some agreements made. So there was a lot of back and forward communications. But one thing I realized is that it was a bit more difficult to reach out to these people to kind of progress and move forward. You always have the background work that takes place before projects actually go on site. So that was a bit, it wasn't as efficient as usual. But now actually the project is on site, so it's beginning to pick up again, which is good. But Great. It was, I would admit, it was quite difficult because a lot of the projects were kind of private. So they kind of went on hold, like residential projects and things like that.
I see a lot
like
of
extensions. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, everyone's got that same struggle, and so we felt it quite a bit in the office, and a lot of the times I had nothing to do.
So as I understand, your practice works with NGOs, doesn't it?
Yes. So actually, it's good that you mentioned that, because I was going to move on and say that the nice thing about the practice that I'm with at the moment is that we do a lot of research as well. So it's not just your typical architecture. There's the research aspect to it, because they combine academia with architecture and research. So it's like a triangle of practices, and it's nice because when one kind of is put on hold, you've still got something to do in the background. So there's quite a lot of projects that are in the progress in Palestine, the natural national history. Yeah, Golzari India Architects.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah,
great.
Well, so I did my, so a bit of background, I did my part 1 at Westminster. I did my year out with NG Architects. Did my part 2 back at Westminster with Nasser, Golzari and Sharif, with you in the same studio.
Our great professors.
They're amazing people. They're amazing people. I've learned so much with them, and that's one thing. Practice is a place where you learn and you grow and you develop, and I'm not the same person I was when I started. And Angela mentioned something about communicating, learning, picking up communication skills. It's really important that you take that from the practice you're in. And what I've realized is having that gap away from them at home. I've kind of almost forgotten how to communicate with people in a sense. So it's nice when you're surrounded by the architects, you learn, you pick up so much from them.
And now you're the female hijabi Bear Grylls trying to communicate on the phone.
Sorry?
You're like the female hijabi Bear Grylls.
Yeah. So
what I wanted to ask actually is one thing that's kind of really amazing that you've mentioned is the idea of there are practices out there who are doing slightly different things. And Golzari Architects, for example, they work with a lot of NGOs. So although there are some practices that might be struggling in finance because they just in the typical kind of traditional architecture work, a lot of practices are not actually doing that bad because they have other kind of realms in which they work. So it's going to be a very important thing for students to know as well, that if you're looking for work slightly on a broader level, you have the option of sticking quite close to architecture or going far out as kind of Ryan was suggesting, and exploring different things. So there's a lot of value coming up from what you're saying. I want to ask you, as someone who works in a small practice, have you had any experience of knowing what's going on with the employment situation for your current firm? You might not be looking for employees right now, but if you were, do you think COVID would have been an obstacle for you to get on new people?
In the past 3 months, I think yes, because everything was on hold and the work stopped and slowed down. I haven't heard of needing to actually, as far as I'm aware, we're not looking to actually get any new employees. And there was actually talk before COVID that we wanted to downsize the office space anyways, so we're in the process of actually doing that. It's a very uncertain time. But like I said, projects are picking up again, and you just never know what's going to happen in the future. So yeah, but I've had two firms reach out to me asking, if I'd be interested in working with them as well, and they also work with NGOs and also in the public sector and urban developments, and that's something that's really interesting as well. If we're thinking about pandemics in the future, and if this is going to occur again, a lot of people are saying, we've realized actually we need more green spaces to actually use, have access to, and I think practices maybe if you're looking, practices that do a lot of urban design and landscapes, I think that could be potentially something that you could look into.
That's a good point right now, especially might want to have urban planners, because there's going to be a lot more work for them.
Exactly.
Thank you for what I understand there's a little announcement you want to give to people as well of something you're taking part in. Yeah,
sure. So do you want to, how should we do this? Should I just announce it on here from this account?
It's up to you. I mean, I don't know when the time limit is going to go up.
Okay, let me just quickly announce it then.
Just go for it, and if it times out, I'll tell you.
Yeah, so mwa.arc, let me just type that in below. mwa.arc. So if you guys all go and follow that page, we've got it's a new initiative called Muslim Women in Architecture. So like Angela was saying again, if you feel like there's something missing, take that initiative to start it up. And so it's myself, Tahin Khan, and Zahra Mansour. We both studied in University of Westminster. Zahra has done her part 1 there, and myself and Tahin, we've done our part 2, which recently graduated last year. And we've always felt like there was an underrepresentation of Muslim women in architecture. We never really felt that we had, when I was doing my part 1, there wasn't a single part 2 Muslim female that I could go and have a conversation with, just to learn more about her experiences within the industry and how she's kind of moving her way up in the career. Just because I feel like sometimes when you come from a certain background as someone else, you can relate to certain issues, certain struggles and successes as well. So we felt it was time that we've always had this conversation, and we thought it's finally time that we actually take the step to actually do something, create this initiative, create a platform. And I think as well, like having the COVID pandemic and staying at home, we had more time to actually dedicate it to this cause. So there's always benefits from things that may seem like they're hindering progress or success. It was a good time for us to actually launch it up, and we're participating at the moment in the Digital London Festival of Architecture. We've got a few projects coming up. We've got a few talks we're going to do, hopefully with Architecture Foundation. So yeah, go follow there. I don't know. Have I missed anything, Tahin? Article. Do you want to say? Oh no, she doesn't want to be in this. Yeah, and we've got an article coming up on a Reba journal. So for you guys, if you want to find out more information, you can go on there. So yeah.
So I'll just say, I'm excited for this because I know that there's there's a lot of apprehension in particular, communities of people, whether it's any minority community are sometimes they need the extra support, whether it's actual practical knowledge of how you can deal with things, being a person from a particular group, or whether you need to actually just speak to someone on a kind of emotional level or a mental level, just so that what you can expect. And I'm all for empowering groups like this to have a bigger voice. And I got my niece to listen today, so Hiba is watching right now, and I think she'll find it very inspiring as a young girl who's
Hello, Hiba.
she's amazing at architectural stuff already. She's done sections and elevations, and she's really young.
Oh, amazing!
So she
That's
might
really
be
nice. I think also one part of this as well is giving back to the community. We've been on this journey and we've had certain successes, and what we've learned through this journey, it's nice to reflect on, but also give back to younger girls, guide them, encourage them, provide them with the support they need. Maybe it's just, being there for them to listen to their struggles and give certain advice, maybe lead them in certain directions. So it's also about giving back to the community, which is a big part of this initiative.
definitely. And I think that applies to all groups of people. What no matter what cause you're standing up for, you should be able to make your group and make it a kind of resource for support. Obviously, I think there's activism is a separate thing for me, and I see activism and support as slightly different things. So definitely happy to support movements that are looking to support other people. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And speak soon.
Yeah. Take care.
All right. So, what a successful event once again, I would say, in my view. We've got so many views out there. There's so much information there to absorb again. So what we're going to do is try find a way to get this all together and put it on YouTube so you can access it whenever you want. I know there are loads of people out there who were also not able to make this event, really wanted to tune in, but we're going to really try and make sure we put this on YouTube. So make sure you follow the Two Worlds Design account, spread the word, share the resources with everyone, and we'll put the links out there for YouTube and everything as well. What I really hope is that everyone feels a little bit more hopeful right now. I know I feel a bit more hopeful. I've got so many more ideas of what I might do during this sort of lockdown period. And I wanted to just kind of start the discussion and ask the questions that were really difficult to ask. Someone's got to ask them, and there are definitely people out there who have information. And we were lucky enough to have 3 amazing guests doing amazing things in the professional world. Give us invaluable advice. Ryan was telling us about how we might think to look for entrepreneurial endeavors and work on ourselves as kind of creative practitioners. The amount of tools and skills you learn and I've learned at architecture school are endless, and the way you can apply them can be in many different ways. Whether you go off and you might want to work in a graphic design firm right now just to get your skills up and get some money in the pocket. Or you might look for these kind of alternative architecture practices that either work for NGOs, or they might be working in media, or they might have different branches. So there seems to be this kind of a hidden market of work that we can try to tap into, at least try to explore and kind of fish them out as well. So we want to keep the conversation going. We might do another event. It's up to you. Whatever you guys respond, message me, email me, let me know what your thoughts are. You're welcome to everyone who's saying thank you, and I'm glad you guys liked it. I guess, I don't know if there's much more to say apart from stay safe. Just please respect what we as a community, as a country, as a global community are trying to do by respecting lockdown rules and the social distancing rules. You know, I know it's difficult right now with the jobs things, but you have all these support networks around you. Please get in touch, ask people. You know, and Angela says, keep positive, things will get better, upskill and develop new creative skills too. And so you might use this period now to build yourself. And for those people like me who really need a job right now, you know, I think there are many things you can do right at this moment. Where, for example, we got amazing advice from all of our guests. I think Arthur mentioned the idea of, you know, put together this really bespoke portfolio. You know, Tyler touched on it as well. Make sure you're applying, because guys, firms are not idiots. They'll get your application and they'll be like, yeah, he's obviously or she's obviously sent that to 17 other practices. They're not that into our way of doing things. Find a practice you're passionate about and you really see yourself working there for a while, and make the best application for them and send it to them. And I promise you, things will work better that way. And you never know, you might hit another opportunity that you probably wouldn't have hit before. And so I think I'll end it there. Thanks again. And stay tuned for more amazing content, because the Design Talks podcast is going to relaunch, and there's amazing episodes in depth with Arthur Mani, who you just heard talk, in depth with Ryan Willard, who you just heard talk, and in depth with Angela Brady. So all of these people will get, there's more content coming your way. And that's it. Take care and God bless.